Imagine living next door to a charming neighbor who turns out to be a cold-blooded killer. Shocking, right? Or picture a man who throws fun parties for kids but hides a sinister secret in his basement. Welcome to our deep dive into the world of the top 10 most infamous serial killers in history. We'll uncover chilling stories and dark secrets about these individuals that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about evil. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. Number 1. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is one of the most well-known serial killers, not just for his gruesome acts, but for his deceptive charm. With his good looks and charisma, Bundy easily lured his victims. Many women came to his aid, thinking he was injured and needed help. Little did they know, they were walking right into the arms of one of the most dangerous men in history. Bundy was notorious for his ability to escape capture. He did it twice, continuing his killing spree even while on the run. He confessed to killing 30 women, but experts believe the actual number could be much higher, possibly over 100. Bundy's story is a stark reminder of how appearances can be deceiving, and the true nature of some individuals can be hidden behind a facade of normalcy. Fun fact, Bundy served as his own lawyer during his trial, using his charm and intelligence to manipulate the courtroom. His charisma even extended to the point where he proposed to his girlfriend, Carol Ann Boone, while she was on the witness stand, and she accepted. Number 2. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, had a disturbing and horrifying modus operandi. Dahmer began his killing spree in his late teens, targeting young men and boys. What made his crimes particularly gruesome were the unspeakable acts he committed post-mortem, including cannibalism and preserving body parts. Dahmer's chilling reign of terror came to an end in 1991 when one of his intended victims, Tracy Edwards, managed to escape and lead the police to Dahmer's apartment. The police discovered a macabre scene with human remains, photographs of dismembered bodies, and a drum filled with acid. Dahmer confessed to killing 17 young men and boys. He was sentenced to life in prison but was killed by a fellow inmate in 1994. One eerie fact about Dahmer is that he would often keep skulls and skeletons as trophies and even tried to create a shrine out of his victims' remains. Number 3. John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown, was a man who struck fear into the hearts of many with his dual personality. By day, Gacy was a well-liked community member, often dressing up as Pogo the Clown to entertain children at parties. However, his nighttime activities were far more sinister. Gacy was responsible for the brutal murders of at least 33 young men and boys, whom he lured to his home before assaulting and killing them. Gacy buried most of his victims in the crawl space of his house. His crimes came to light in 1978 when police found the remains of several victims on his property. Gacy was sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection in 1994. A chilling detail about Gacy is that he continued to maintain his innocence until his execution, despite the overwhelming evidence against him. He even painted pictures of clowns while on death row, which were later sold at auctions. Number 4. Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez, dubbed the Night Stalker, was a notorious serial killer, rapist, and burglar who terrorized California in the mid-1980s. Ramirez's crime spree included home invasions, sexual assaults, and brutal murders, often leaving satanic symbols at the crime scenes to further instill fear. His reign of terror lasted from 1984 to 1985, and he was known for his unpredictability and viciousness. Ramirez was eventually caught after being recognized by civilians who subdued him until the police arrived. He was convicted of 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, and numerous other charges. Ramirez was sentenced to death and remained on death row until his death from complications related to B-cell lymphoma in 2013. A particularly eerie fact about Ramirez is that he showed no remorse for his crimes and even smirked and waved the courtroom during his trial. Number 5. Ed Gein. Ed Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, was a grave robber and murderer whose crimes shocked the nation. Gain's gruesome acts were discovered in 1957 when police investigated the disappearance of a local woman, found her decapitated body in Gain's farmhouse, along with various human remains. Gain had exhumed corpses from local graveyards and fashioned keepsakes and trophies from their bones and skin. His macabre practices inspired several horror movie characters, including Norman Bates in Psycho and Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Gain was declared insane and spent the rest of his life in a mental institution, where he died in 1984. One haunting detail about Gain is that he created a suit made of human skin, which he would wear to emulate his deceased mother. Number 6. Albert Fish. Albert Fish, also known as the Gray Man, the Werewolf of Wisteria, and the Brooklyn Vampire, was a child rapist and cannibal who boasted about the number of children he had tortured and killed. Fish's crimes were extremely sadistic, and he took pleasure in inflicting pain. In 1928, he lured a young girl named Grace Budd to his home, where he killed and ate her. Fish later sent a letter to her family detailing the horrifying act. He was arrested in 1934 after being traced through the letter and confessed to killing several children. Fish was executed by electric chair in 1936. An unsettling fact about Fish is that he inserted needles into his body for sexual pleasure, many of which were found during his X-ray after his arrest. Number 7. H.H. Holmes. H.H. Holmes, born Herman Webster Mudgett, is considered America's first serial killer. In the late 1800s, he constructed a hotel in Chicago, which would later be dubbed the Murder Castle. The building was designed with secret passageways, trapdoors, and soundproof rooms to facilitate Holmes' killing spree. He would lure his victims into the hotel, where he would torture and kill them before disposing of their bodies in various ways. Holmes confessed to 27 murders, but the actual number of his victims could be much higher, possibly around 200. He was arrested in 1894 and executed in 1896. One particularly morbid detail about Holmes is that he would sell the skeletons of his victims to medical schools. Number 8. Eileen Wuornos. Eileen Wuornos is one of the few female serial killers in history. Her story gained widespread attention, partly due to her background and the nature of her crimes. Wuornos, a prostitute, killed 7 men in Florida between 1989 and 1990. She claimed that the killings were in self-defense against men who tried to rape her. However, the jury found her guilty and she was sentenced to death. Wuornos was executed by lethal injection in 2002. A fascinating yet disturbing fact about Wuornos is that her life and crimes were the basis for the movie Monster, in which actress Charlize Theron won an Academy Award for her portrayal of Wuornos. Number 9. Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper is perhaps the most infamous unidentified serial killer in history. Operating in the Whitechapel district of London in 1888, the Ripper is believed to have killed at least 5 women, all of whom were prostitutes. His method of killing was particularly brutal, involving the mutilation of his victims' bodies. Despite numerous investigations and a plethora of theories, the true identity of Jack the Ripper remains unknown. The mystery surrounding his identity has led to numerous books, movies, and television series. One eerie fact is that the Ripper sent taunting letters to the police, some of which contained gruesome details only the killer could have known. Number 10. David Parker Ray. David Parker Ray, known as the Toy Box Killer, was a torturer and suspected serial killer who created a soundproof trailer, which he referred to as his toy box. The trailer was equipped with a variety of torture devices, and he would abduct women and hold them captive for days, torturing them before presumably killing them. Ray's horrific acts came to light in 1999 when one of his victims, Cynthia Vigil, escaped and alerted authorities. Ray was arrested and convicted of numerous crimes, though he never confessed to any murders. It's believed he may have killed up to 60 women. One shocking fact is that Ray would brainwash his victims using audio recordings that detailed the torture they were about to endure. That wraps up our list of the top 10 most infamous serial killers in history. These stories are not only terrifying, but also serve as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind seemingly ordinary facades. Stay safe and always be aware of your surroundings.